In 1989, U.S. President George Bush signed a proclamation recognizing the 7 laws of Noah as the principles of moral and ethical conduct that have formed the basis of all civilizations. In 1991, a joint resolution of Congress, U.S. Public Law 10214, stated that the 7 Noahide laws have been the bedrock of society from the dawn of civilization. The following presentation outlines the 7 Noahide laws and describes their connection to world unity.
There comes a time as we watch our lives unfold, when the world feels strange, future unknown.
Hello, I'm Jeff Weiser, reporting for CBC World News. Last week's unprecedented unilateral world peace agreement, which officially ended all armed conflicts around the globe, has now gone into effect. World peace, once only a dream of religious groups, is now reality, as today the United Nations reported there were no deaths due to armed conflict anywhere in the world.
Hashem chose us as His glorious design. He'll make this world a better place for you and me.
Today in medical news, we're proud to report the last mystery of cancer has been uncovered by a British scientist and the disease has been eliminated from mankind.
In economic news today, the economy soars despite the 12-hour work week, which went into effect last week. The once dreaded .com industry's upturn during the past 6 months has been the needed catalyst to bring the world economy to levels never before seen in the history of mankind.
We are your world. We are your children. We are the ones who show you how to love the life you're living.
It is an ideal state of being of world peace. Everyone can contribute to this one big family. It is our dream to work for it. I think it is possible. I think we need to believe in the possibility of it.
When the world reaches its point of perfection, it'll be that kind of life. There'll be no war, there'll be no hatred, there'll be no hunger, there'll be no poverty, there'll be no tears, there'll be no pain, there'll be no suffering. And everything that's going on now is just bringing the world to that ultimate stage.
How do we get there? We have to refine the world. We have to transform the world. We have to make the world a better place. How do you make the world a better place?
You need to have a system. The oldest and most universal divine system in place is called the Noahide laws. Noahide because they originate from Noah, who was a survivor after a flood that came as a result of a corrupt world. So in a sense, Noah becomes the man, the father of civilization, and sets into motion laws by which civilization should never destroy itself again.
The rainbow is the covenant in which God states that He will not destroy mankind, and it's a covenant between Him and the world. And this shows that God is directly involved with His creatures and that He wishes them to exist.
When He gave these laws to Noah, He said, this is for you and for your sons and for the generations to come. So basically what we're living in now is basically disobeying what God wanted. So ultimately, if we do keep those 7 commandments we were given, we would actually do what God actually wanted us to do in the beginning.
Number one is that there's a God. There's an eye that sees, there's an ear that hears. There's a higher presence in our lives. We're not alone.
This world has a purpose to it. And that purpose is to make this world a dwelling place for God. And each one of us was endowed with a responsibility to bring that about. And every single one of us has a role in that grand divine plan.
The belief in God is the belief that the world has a manager. It has managing principles that are beyond my wishes and my desires. To some extent, there can be nothing more hopeful than that. I believe that the world is a world of chaos and a world of violence. It's a very depressive world.
I was born in China, a culture that doesn't encourage religion, so I wasn't grow up with the concept of God. However, I do believe in some kind of spiritual being that is overseeing our individual life, giving us direction. if only we can listen to it.
Number 2 is respect for the divine. You shouldn't blasphemize God's name. What it really means is, many people can believe in God, but the God is somewhere up in heaven. It doesn't affect how you speak. It doesn't affect how you behave. So essentially, this is about applying it to the way you communicate at the table, in your home, even when you're nervous, even when you're aggravated. God's presence is with you, and you always maintain that type of respect.
It includes also the obligation to pray to God, to communicate with God, to ask of God things, and God listens, as our Torah teaches us, and to develop a relationship with God, a personal relationship with God.
The person cannot be overpowered by an immature idea of God where he vents his anger and frustration against the creator of the universe.
Number 3 is respect for life. Thou shalt not murder. You must respect life, absolutely.
The criteria for murder is not to kill someone who doesn't want to be killed. The criteria for murder is you're not allowed to take a life. Why? Because life isn't yours. It was given to you, something that you have to guard and watch and preserve, but you don't own your own life, let alone somebody else's life. And taking another life of a person whose life wants to be taken, like this whole craze of euthanasia, is biblically prohibited. It's against the Torah to murder another human being, whether or not that human being, even if the human being is willing. You don't own your own life. You're not allowed to take your own life. It's against the Torah. And I want to add one piece of controversy, but a very real controversy. According to Jewish law, within the framework of the 7 laws of Noah, abortion is murder. Killing an unborn baby who would live, if he would be allowed to live, is murder. Unfortunately, in our society, you don't get punished for it. It's almost become a mitzvah, a commandment, like something that shows you to be, what are they called, a progressive human being. But as an individual, there should be a sense of awareness, of conscience, of consciousness. This is taking a life. Life doesn't belong to you. You have no right to destroy it.
Number 4 is respect for family, which means sexual conduct that is not incestuous, that is not abusive.
You can't have a society with simply rampant, unbridled sexual instinct, and so there must be control over the sexual instinct, and sexuality in man has to have an objective, and the objective is procreation. So the Torah cannot sanction an institution where the sexuality is simply self-indulging and there is no benefits for mankind.
Number 5 is respect for property. Thou shalt not steal. So not just respect for someone's life, it's also respect for other people's property.
If I believe that there is a force that unites both of us, then just as I want something, I have to consider that you want something. Just as I own something, then you own something. And just as I want what is good for me, I must want what is good for you. This is the principle of Hillel. What is hateful unto you, don't do unto your brother.
Even if that person will never know you stole from them, and even if that person wouldn't care that you stole from them, you're not allowed to steal. It's wrong. It's against God's principle.
Number 6 is to set up a system of law and order, a justice system of courts, so there's accountability and people have a certain responsibility to themselves and to society.
That entails both people who teach law, shoftim, judges, and people who enforce law, where right and justice is upheld and where evil and wrong is punished. But included within that, there is a whole broad kaleidoscope of particulars that have to do with upstanding morality, like charity, like visiting the sick, like burying the dead, like worrying about the less fortunate and the destitute. And a very significant one, compromise. Don't drive everything to its miserable end. The idea that people should be able to forgive another person.
And finally, number 7 is respect for creatures, which specifically in Hebrew is called Ever min achai, that you shall not eat from the limb of an animal that's alive. because it tortures it. So it's respect for life.
In today's world, cultism and belief in magical powers and animals are, by the way, slaughtered, and attempts are made to gain their power, so it is very common in our society. You may not see it out in the street every day, but you read about it and it's there, and this type of a thing is something which has had a major influence on many, many societies.
This is a very humanistic law, that you as a human being have to have compassion, not only to your parents and not only to your society, but also to animals. That you have to have compassion for everyone, for all of God's creations.
The whole purpose of these laws is to make someone, is to reveal the spirituality within each person, and that anyone can relate to, because that's the whole concept of a human being. A human being has that soul within him.
You have a soul. It's a beautiful soul. Why don't you live up to it? And here's how you can live up to it. Here are the guidelines. There are guidelines. There's a blueprint for life. It's called the Universal Blueprint. What we're discussing, the Noahide laws. It's a guidebook how to live the best you can live.
And the dream is, my house, says the prophet, will be called house of prayer for all nations. God will be one and his name will be one. That means that all the peoples of the world are going to be united into the great humanity, and united humanity which God intended from the beginning.
There comes a time as we watch our lives unfold, when the world feels strange, future unknown.
Hello, I'm Joanne Chung reporting live from Beijing. We are very honored to announce the new World Peace Alliances signed last week in New York City has been unanimously accepted by officials in China.
We are your world, we are your children, we are the ones who show you how to love the life you're living.
Hashem chose us as His glorious design. He'll make this world a better place for you and me.